Come on over. I'm going to do a complete walkthrough into Form 1120X. And I'm giving you line by line instructions how amended U.S. corporation income tax returns work. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Awesome Sweetie Kiwi Show. How are you today? I hope you are doing fantastic. I'm doing marvelous, if you were to ask me. If you are doing as terrific as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka and let's roll. Have you made a mistake on your corporate income tax return? Then let's talk about Form 1120X. Mistakes are part of being a business owner, right? I mean, at one point or another, you may make a mistake on a form such as your business income tax return. And if your business is structured as a C corporation or taxed as a corporation, you can use 1120X, Form 1120X, to amend your original return. Now, let me show you, I'm going to show you right now in today's show how to use the Form 1120X to correct errors. Let me first give you an overview. Before you can learn about an 1120 amended return, you need to know what Form 1120 is. So I'm going to talk to you about Form 1120. This is basically, it's called a U.S. corporate income tax return. And this is a form that incorporated businesses use to file income taxes for the year. Corporations must use Form 1120 to report things like income, gains, losses, deductions, and credits. So if your business is a corporation or files as one, for example, you can have an LLC that files as a corporation. If that really fits your situation, you must file Form 1120. The form will tell you how much your business needs to pay in income taxes for the period. And what about Form 1120 amended return? So an amended Form 1120, also called a Form 1120X, comes into play when you make a mistake on the corporate income tax return. And basically, this is a form that allows businesses to correct mistakes made on their already filed Form 1120. And you may need to file an amended Form 1120 if you forgot to include expenses or deductions, or if you forgot to include those on your originally filed form. Or you may need to amend your form if you claimed a deduction you shouldn't have. And so now I'm going to talk to you about a few common questions, common Form 1120X questions. Who can file the form? Again, only businesses that need to file Form 1120 can use Form 1120X. So this includes C corporation and LLCs filing as a corporation. And what can you use Form 1120X for? In other words, what can you not use Form 1120X for? Don't use Form 1120 to apply for a quick refund or of estimated tax, to request the IRS approval for a change in accounting period, to obtain a tentative refund of taxes due to a net operating loss carryback, a net capital loss carryback, an unused general business credit carryback, or a claim of right adjustment under Section 1341B1. There are other forms that are really they are more suitable for that. According to the IRS, you can use the form to either correct a Form 1120 as originally filed, correct a Form 1120 later adjusted by an amended return, a claim for refund, or an examination. You can make certain elections after the prescribed deadline. We're showing you right now on the screen, and this snapshot actually came from the IRS websites, and it tells you exactly, you can see on the screen right now, it says do not use Form 1120X2, and instead use, so you have the suitable form. So you have Form 4466 if you want to get a quick refund of overpayment of estimated tax, and Form 1136 for a corporation application for a tentative refund. And another question that's very important to answer when we go through the 1120X is, what kind of information do you put on Form 1120X? So you put things like the business name and address, the EIN, the income, your business's income and deductions, payments and credits, tax due or overpayment, explanation of chart of changes, signature, very important because on your amended form, you also need to you need to sign the form, of course. You also need to provide information from your originally filed tax return as well as new totals based on your new information. So basically, depending on what you are amending, you may also need to attach certain documents. For example, if your correction includes income, deductions, or credits, you need to attach the appropriate schedule, statements, or form to your amended return form. Okay, and don't forget to attach any supporting documents if needed. And other pivotal questions: where do you send your amended return? Now, you want to send, according to the IRS, you need to send your Form 1120 amended return to the IRS, and you got to send it to the same address where you send the original return, the original Form 1120 return. All right. And what is Form 1120 amended returns statute of limitations? So you can only file Form 1120X after your corporation has filed its original return. Makes sense, right? You cannot amend something. Remember, amend means change. You cannot amend something that you haven't filed before. So generally, you must file Form 1120X within 3 years after the date your corporation filed its original return, or within 2 years after the date your corporation paid the tax if filing a claim for a refund, whichever is later. And no statute of limitation applies actually if you intentionally, this is a key word here, intentionally failed to file an amended return because you owed additional taxes. And when to file. Now, you need to file the Form 1120X only after the corporation has filed the return, right? Now, generally, I think I just said that one thing that's very important to remember, that a return filed before the due date is considered filed on the due date. So a Form 1120X based on a net operating loss carryback, a capital loss carryback, or general business credit carryback generally must be filed within 3 years after the due date, including extensions of the return for the tax year of the net operating loss, the capital loss, or unused credits. Okay, a Form 1120X based on a bad debt or worthless security must be filed within 7 years after the due date of the return for the tax year in which the debt or security became worthless. All right, so now if you need more info about this, you want to check out Section 6511 for more details and other special rules. And one thing that I also want to say, and this is very important for entrepreneurs who are really, if you are impatient, you got to be patient here, because it often takes 3 to 4 months to process Form 1120X. And they have the IRS also has a private delivery services option, so corporations can use certain private delivery services designated by the IRS to meet the timely mailing as timely filing rule for tax return. All right, so this is something that you have to really think about. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another section of the Awesome Sweetie Kiwi Show. We are still having a conversation today about IRS Form 1120X. I'm giving you line by line instructions. I'll be giving them to you right now. Let's just start. So basically, there are a number of columns and sections on Form 1120X. All right. So the form can also be broken down really into 2 parts. So you have Part 1, income and deductions, and Part 2, explanation of changes to items in Part 1. All right. So I put on the screen right now, we have the link to the IRS website where you can download the form yourself. And so let's start. So on the screen, you have the form, the part 1 here. So of course, you put the name of the company, the number, you put the employer identification number, the city or town, you put the phone number, any identifying information, you have to put that in the first part. And then right now you have to basically, start, let's start with Part 1. So you have column A. This is where you enter the amount from your corporation's return as originally filed. or as if it was later amended. So if the return was changed or audited by the IRS, you want to enter the adjusted amounts instead. All right, so that's for column A. Column B, you want to enter the net increase or net decrease for each line being changed. You want to use parentheses around amounts that are net decreases. You need to explain the increase or decrease in part 2. Very important to substantiate the decrease or increase. Column C, the amounts entered on lines 1 to 4 in column C must equal the amounts that you entered on the applicable lines of your tax return if all adjustments and corrections were taken into account. This is very important, all right? So line 1, you need to input your total income. Line 2, you want to put the total deductions. Line 3, you want to subtract line 2 from line 1 to get total income. And line 4, you want to calculate the new amount of tax using the taxable income of line 3, column C. And you can also you can ask. Okay, so now let's move on to the next one here. So you see on the screen right now we have payments and credits. So 5A, you want to enter overpayments in the prior year or prior years allowed as a credit if applicable. All right. So 5B, you want to input estimated tax payments if applicable. 5C, you want to enter refund applied for on Form 4466 if applicable. If that applies to you, then you go ahead and do that. Line 5D, you want to subtract 5C from the sum of line 5A and 5B. And line 5E, you need to enter the amount of tax deposited with Form 7004 if applicable. We have actually covered we've covered Form 7004 on another show, so you want to double check that one. And you want to input the credit amount from a form of 2439 if applicable. That's for 5F. And 5G, you want to include any writing credits or payments, such as the credits for tax on ozone depleting chemicals or backup withholding. And line 6 here, you have to enter the tax deposited or paid with or after the filing of your original 1120 return. So we are continuing here. So line 7, this is where you have to add lines 5D to 6, column C. Line 8, you need to enter the amount from the overpayment line of your original return, even if you chose to credit all or part of this amount to the next year's estimated tax. All right, so basically here, if the original return was, let's say, changed by the IRS and the result was an additional overpayment of tax, you want to also include that amount on line 8. On line 9, you need to subtract line 8 from line 7. Line 10, you want to subtract line 9 from line 4. Here, this is column C, right? So if paying by check, you want to make always want to make the check payable to the United States Treasury, all right? Not the IRS, no, United States Treasury. On line 11, you want to subtract line 4, column C, from line 9. And that's if you have an overpayment, all right? And line 12, you want to enter the tax period and the amount, if any, to be applied to the estimated tax for the next tax period. And no interest will be paid on this amount, just so you know. If the IRS owes you, they're not paying you any interest. If you owe them, on the other hand, yes, you're paying interest. So now part 2, this is where you only want to use this part to explain changes. We're showing this to you right now on the screen. You only want to use this part to explain changes to items in part 1. So you want to enter the line number from part 1 for the items you are changing, give the reason for each change, and detail your calculations. If the corrected amount involves an item of income, deduction, or credit that must be supported with a schedule, statement, or form, you need to attach the appropriate document to Form 1120X. And if the charge is due to a net operating loss carryback, a capital loss carryback, or a general business credit carryback, you need to check that box. And remember to sign it. This form must be signed. 1120X must be signed, all right? So the president, vice president, treasurer, assistant treasurer, chief accounting officer, or any other corporate officer, such as a tax officer, authorized to sign, must sign and date the form. You need to sign and date the form. So after you fill out and sign Form 1120X, you need to mail your completed form to the IRS for review. Okay, as I said earlier, it takes time. You got to be patient here. It typically takes the IRS roughly 3 to 4 months to process the form. So now let me just talk about other things. There are other 1120X important pieces of information. What do you need to attach to Form 1120X? So if the corrected amount involves an item of income deduction or a credit that must be supported with a schedule, statement, or form, you need to attach that appropriate schedule, statement, or form to Form 1120X. So you want to include the corporation's name and employer identification number on any attachment, right? So the IRS can reconcile the data you're setting to them. If you need more info, you want to see the instructions for the applicable Form 1120 for the tax year of the claim for a list of forms that may be required. And in addition, if the corporation requests that the IRS electronically deposit a refund of $1 million or more, you want to attach Form 11. You want to attach Form 8302, electronic deposit of tax refund of 100 million or more. So here is a link to that form. I'm putting it on the screen right now, and I'm going to quickly walk you through that form. Very important. So the form is here. You can see on the screen right now. So you put the name of the company. You put the address, the EIN, and the taxpayer's phone number. And you need to put on line 1, you need to specify whether you want direct deposit or Fedwire. Line 2, you need to put the routing number, and it must be 9 digits. And line 3, you need to put the account number. And you need to check whether it is a checking account or savings account. Let's also talk about shelters. This is also very important, tax shelters. So if the corporation's return is being amended for a tax year in which the corporation participated in a reportable transaction, so-called reportable transaction, you need to attach Form 8886, reportable transaction disclosure statement. And if a reportable transaction results in a loss or credit carried back to a prior tax year, you need to attach Form 8886 for the carryback years. So I'm showing you right now on the screen the link to the IRS Form 8886, and I'm showing you the screen itself. I'm showing you the snapshot of those, not the snapshot. I'm actually showing you the whole form, so you can see here. And very simply, it's a straightforward form. You need to put the name of the company, the EIN, the address. You need to put you need to fill out the required information on section ABC. So you need to check on C. You need to check the box that apply whether it is the initial year of filer or a protected disclosure, and you need to put the name of the reportable transaction in 1A and follow all the info. Is pretty self-explanatory here. So you need to put whether the entity is a partnership in 5A, whether it's a partnership, an S corporation, a trust, or a foreign. And you need to put the EIN and all other information. You need to do this all the way to line 8B. So you need to fill the form, and you need to put whatever information is important. And you need to also specify if on line 8A and 8B, the type of individual entity, or entity rather, if it's tax exempt, or if it's a charity, or related, or foreign. So you need to actually fill all this form. And I also want to talk to you about carryback claims. So if Form 1120X is used as a carryback claim, you need to attach copies of Form 1120. That's very important. Page 1 page 1 1120 and the tax computation page for both the year the loss or credit originated and for the carryback year. Also attach any forms, schedule, or statements that are necessary to support the claim, including a statement that shows all adjustments required to figure any net operating loss that was carried back. Okay, one thing that's critical here, folks, and I want you to really remember this: at the top of the forms or schedules attached, you need to write copy only, do not process. You need to write that. Write copy only, do not process. Okay, so carryback of an eligible small business credit, it's really another issue you need to pay attention to. It's a little convoluted, so we're not going to go into details here. But one thing I want to quickly talk about also is the refund of overpaid taxes. Okay, so if you can also apply for a quick refund of estimated taxes for your corporation by filing this form 4466. I'm showing you right now. I'm showing you right now on the screen here. You have the address of the IRS websites, the page where you have the form. You can download the form, as well as how the form looks like, what the form looks like. You can see on the screen here. So it's pretty straightforward. Also, you need to you just need to put the name of the company, the EIN, the address, and you need to check the type of return to be filed. So 1120, 1120C, 1120F, LPC. Remember, you cannot file 4466 for an S corporation. You cannot have a 1120S. That's what's not even here. All right. And so you need to enter the right info on line 1 through 7. And also you need to actually on line 8, you have to basically do the calculation, and you need to put a record of estimated tax deposit. So you need to put the date of the deposit, the amount. Basically, you have to pay, you have to make those deposits 4 times a year, every quarter. So you have here 4 boxes. So you have to put the date and the amount, and you have to sign. Remember, an officer of the company has to sign. Very important. All right. And one thing that's very important also is that, remember that form to amend a tax return for an S corporation. I think I said earlier, you cannot use this for 1120S. So if you want to do something for an S corporation, you need to create a copy of the original return and check box 4, H4. Then use the copy to make the changes to the return and refile. And one thing I also want to say quickly here is that if the change in your S corporation taxes results in a change to shareholder information, you must also file an amended Schedule K1 and give the copy of the amended K1 to the shareholder, and make a copy of the original K1 and check the correct box to indicate that it is an amended K1. All right, so I'm showing you right now on the screen, we have a copy of a Schedule K1, and you can see on top, it says close to the 2020, the year 2020, you have a final K1 and amended K1. You just need to actually, on top of part 3, you can see that to your right, and you just check the box where it says amended K1, and you fill all the other information that you need, the name, the corporation's EIN, and so on and so forth. All right, folks, this is it for today's conversation. I really appreciated your attention. I was talking to you about IRS Form 1120X, line-by-line instructions, amended U.S. corporation income tax return. So I give you an overview of the form. I explain what 1120 is versus 1120X. I answered a few common 1120X questions. Who can file the form? What can you do? What can you use the form for? What kind of info do you put on Form 1120X? Where do you send your amended return? What is Form 1120 amended return? Statute of limitation, where to file and when to file. And I give you some line-by-line instructions and other important 1120X information, what to attach to the form, tax shelters, carryback claims, and refund of overpaid taxes. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. I will see you next time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.